Filmmakers here, and today we're going to be doing our movie review for the live-action Lion King. So if you don't know somehow, the Lion King is a live-action remake of the original that came out in the 90s, which is amazing. And the reason I say live-action like that is because technically it's 100% CGI, but everyone's just calling it live-action because it's supposed to look like, because it looks real, so it's like, basically like, if you compare it to the original, this one's the live-action, since the other one's like strictly animated. This is basically the live-action version. And basically, I'm sure most of you guys already know what the plot is, so we're going to go ahead and skip over that part. If you don't know the plot of this movie, just go ahead and stop whatever you're doing right now and go watch the original because it's amazing. And anyway, we're just going to skip over the plot and just get right into our review. So let's get the obvious out of the way. The visual effects are amazing, and this movie should definitely be nominated for Best Visual Effects. Now, in my opinion, actually, even though it's the Lion King, and, you know, the main characters are, like, you know, the lions, it really, my favorite characters in the movie are probably Zazu, Timon, and Pumbaa. I think they really stole the show for me, at least. I think Seth Rogen was perfect. Like, when I first saw the casting was out, I was like, this dude is perfect casting for Pumbaa. I was, like, so excited to see him in this movie, and I really dug him. He's one of my favorite characters. Yeah, and, so they did add some, you know, new lines, new humor, stuff like that. And when they did that for Zazu, it actually did really work for some of, you know, the jokes they added in that, you know, weren't in the original and they made, you know, to put some new stuff in the movie. I think it really worked with Zazu, and I found it pretty funny. There is one reference that Timon makes to another Disney movie, and it was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. It was actually really funny. The thing is, it was like replaced. It was kind of like they were replacing one of the more iconic scenes from the original. And instead of doing it the way they did in the movie, they instead used it as a reference to another Disney movie, which I found pretty good. It's one of the very few times in this movie that they replaced something or took something out of the original movie, and the execution was positive. But more on that in a bit. Also, the music was really good, but I mean, you knew it was going to be good. Yeah. I mean, they do make two changes, which you probably already heard of. One of them is they kind of changed Be Prepared a little bit. It's not really they changed it. It's just kind of like, it's not really a song, but they're okay, this is going to sound dumb, but it's not like a song, but they're still singing, which that probably doesn't make any sense, but, like, it's kind of hard to explain, because it's not like, you know, an actual number like all the other songs in the movie are, so it's just kind of like it was a scene, it was like supposed to be a scene where they're just, you know, talking, and there's like dialogue, and they just kind of threw it in there. The way I see it, it started out as like a speech, but then it turned into a song. That's kind of what it is. The way. And then the other one is, you know, there's a little scene in the original where Timon and Pumbaa are singing "The Lion Sleeps Tonight." Yeah, they kind of turned that into its own little number, which is so good. Part of it was in the trailer, so you kind of knew that was coming, but it was actually pretty cool. I actually kind of liked that. Yeah, and for "Can You Feel the Love Tonight," it was interesting because Donald Glover and Beyonce were the two people singing it because they're Simba and Nala. Yeah. And they're both, you know, artists in real life, so it was kind of neat to see that. Now, I know the question a lot of you may be asking is it as good as the original? No. No. It's not. I mean, it's just, okay, so I don't hate this movie. I still think it's a great movie, don't get me wrong. But the original, it just did everything better. I mean, it's like, I know this part of the review is going to sound super negative, like we're hating on it, but just before we get into this part of the review, just know, we actually did like this movie, like, a lot. It's just, for a movie like this, you just have to compare it to the original, and it doesn't really, you know, hold up well. So one of the biggest things I noticed about this movie is the fact that I actually did kind of enjoy a lot of the new things they put into the movie, but a lot of the scenes they tried to recreate kind of felt flat a little bit. Yeah, because they'd either, like, you know, take a line and it'd be, like, in a different tone, I guess, or they would, like, replace it with something completely different, or just, like, remove it altogether. And with some of the more iconic lines in this movie, it didn't really go as I guess they were intending, maybe. And you probably heard, yeah, the lions, the people the voice actors for the lions were kind of underwhelming. Except for Scar. I mean, I understand what they were trying to go for. They were trying to go for more of like a dark, brooding Scar, which I guess, if you're taking that into consideration, he wasn't that bad. But if you want to compare him to Jeremy Irons, of course, you're going to say, you know, he's not as good. But it's kind of hard to do that because they're kind of playing two different characters in this movie. Yeah, because in the original, he's just more like charismatic villain, I guess. But in this one, he's just kind of more of a, as I said earlier, just more of a dark, brooding guy. And also for Scar, and This is actually in the Broadway play for The Lion King, but there's this whole subplot about how like him him like being in love with Sarabi or something like that. It was kind of dumb, and like I said, it's in the Broadway, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But when I saw this movie, I just did. That was one of the few things I didn't really like about it. This movie is also one of the very rare occasions where, like, I know you've probably seen reviews and people talk about how the pacing's bad in the movie. They're probably like, "Oh, this movie was so boring and the pacing was awful." But this is one of the rare occasions where the pacing is bad because it went too quick. Like for some of the original scenes they were trying to recreate, they kind of went at, like too fast. And also about how they were recreating the line and stuff. There were some lines in this movie that were just so corny and just cheesy. And it wasn't anything from the original. It was these like new things they tried to add. Like so, in the original, the final fight is really mainly just a confrontation between it's Simba, it's Scar. Simba is Scar's trying to put the blame on Simba for Mufasa's death, and he's trying to take his place on to be the king. But in this movie, they kind of make it a little larger scale, and to make it instead of it really just being Simba versus Scar, it's a more like lion versus hyena, which was kind of dumb. And another thing is, the line from the intro where he calls one of the hyenas calls Pumbaa a pig, and that rubs him the wrong way.
Oh, I know.
They took that line and they kind of turned it into this little like whole cheesy like anti-bullying.
That's one of the scenes I was thinking of earlier where it just kind of went fast. He's just like in the original, it's like one of them calls him a pig, and he's just like a beat, and then he's like, "Do one of you guys call me a pig?" And then he gets mad. But then in this one, he's like, one of them calls him a pig, and right after that, he's like, "Oh, did somebody call me a pig?" It just didn't really.
No, he didn't even say pig though. Remember, it was different in this one.
Yeah,
that wasn't even the insult. It was just some kind of other insult. He was like, "I'm not gonna get bullied." It was something dumb like that, and I kind of saw that, and I was like, were they going for like a whole like bullying thing, or did they just change the line? Like it really felt kind of forced, I guess. But I mean,
some of the new things, I didn't say some of the new things were good, but there were a lot of other ones that were they kind of were questionable. Yeah. So at the end of the day, as a fan of The Lion King, and as someone who grew up watching the original and thinks it's one of the best movies ever, the one word I'd use to describe this is satisfying. I would say I'm satisfied with this, because I knew whenever this came out, I was like, there's no way it's going to be as good as the original. And if you're someone that's expecting this to be, on par with the original or something like that, you're definitely going to leave disappointed. What would you say for the rating?
I'll go with a 3. I'll go with 3 out of 5, because, it wasn't great. I mean, obviously, the original 5 out of 5. And I know we've spent, this entire review like, oh, this is not as good as the original, stuff like that, but, like, when you remake a movie, the first thing people are going to say is it as good as the original? And for this one, it's just not, but it's still a really good movie, and even though I would rather you say, go watch the original, it would definitely be a good time to see this movie. But now, only one question remains. Are we getting a live-action adaptation of The Lion King 1.5? Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you like this video, leave a like and put some comments down below on your thoughts about this movie, or just about, the recent trend in Disney's live-action remakes. They're just, beat for beat like the original, but just not as good. Or just really any, maybe video suggestions or just anything you want to say, just put them down in the comments. And be sure to subscribe for more videos from the filmmakers.